Morning. Chapin, how are you, sir?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
I am well. I could have gone for Illinois not losing the last two football games they played and winning the Big Ten West. But hey, it's a better track than I thought they'd be on at this point. So,
No, I mean, look, I think everybody. If you told people to begin the season we'd be where we are, people would have been ecstatic. It was just that short run there of several back-to-backs that really kind of maybe gave us some false expectations. But polls in an election.
yeah, never. It's never fun losing to Purdue. You know what I mean? But like I told somebody before that game, like I never feel good. Purdue coming to Champaign with anything on the line in any sport, I never feel good about it. And for good reason, it seems like. So anyways, Chapin, let's another thing probably a lot of folks didn't feel good about was the election, particularly if you're a conservative in Illinois. Your thoughts on the election from last week?
Well, a couple different things. First of all, I think that, nationally it's clear that the Supreme Court case had a pretty big impact on the election. And that was really the only thing the Democrats had to offer their voters. But, for those of us who don't agree with that, it made for an interesting night. That's for sure. I'm super glad that they finally called the U.S. House of Representatives for the Republicans, so we can at least get a little bit of balance back into governance. That's been missing for 2 years here, and to have a chance to hold the Biden administration accountable and hold their feet to the fire and some things, I think is definitely a positive and good. Look, that's a big loss for the Democrats in its own right. I think people got caught up in polls and everything else, but they lost the House of Representatives, and we're going to have some balance and some opportunity to check Biden, and that's good.
How about Illinois, Chapin? Governor Pritzker is reelected. The supermajority in Springfield expands. The Supreme Court goes to the Democrats as well. This Amendment 1, I think, is what it was called. The workers' right stuff passes. Kind of sweeping Democrat in Illinois. Your thoughts on the state election stuff?
Yeah, first of all, let's remember. One, the Democrats just redrew maps off of the census, right? So these are brand new legislative maps drawn to be Democrat, drawn to be very Democrat in many cases, and to give them a supermajority in both the House and the Senate. And certainly the Democrat drawn maps held, right? The Senate Republicans did pick up a seat, which was positive for us in the sense that we ran headstrong into the Democrat drawn map, and we were still able to pick up a seat, but clearly wish it was more. But let's not forget about just how big of a deal it was when J.B. Pritzker tells everybody the first time he runs that he's going to sign an independent map that doesn't take politics into consideration, and then immediately backtracks on his word and essentially lies, and then signs a gerrymandered partisan map that obviously favors the Democrats. Now, as the statewide elections, I'll say this: Chicago is not Clinton. And the biggest trap that I think as a society we're in is we're all in our own little echo chambers, and people, in our part of the country are only listening to people that agree with us, and people in Chicago are only listening to people that agree with us. And then suddenly they can't understand, what happened and why. Well, this is a matter of math. There's way more people in Chicagoland than there are in Downstate, Illinois. Now, that doesn't mean that it's just fatal and you don't run races, you don't run candidates, you just give up and take your toys and go home. Certainly not. When you look at a Glenn Youngkin and Virginia, he had the same issue. He had rural Virginia who was very conservative, and then he had, the area around Washington, D.C. that was, far more moderate to liberal. And, for example, Loudoun County, that's the Virginia version of DuPage County, just, soccer moms and highly educated, people. And he still won. He won Loudoun County. In fact, he won Loudoun County by 10 points, which was flipping Donald Trump's loss in that county. So, and by the way, he did it on a fairly conservative message. Oddly enough, he did it on things like, what used to be common sense. Now I guess it's conservative, but he did it on, parental support for schools and allowing parents to make sure that their kids are getting an appropriate education, and themes that for for most of history just makes sense, that parents know better than school districts what's in their kids' best interest. Well, apparently now that's a conservative Republican position, but still, Glenn Youngkin won that debate and won governor in Virginia. So, I think at some level, those themes are still electable. I think it's a tough loss because it's 4 years of Pritzker, and he has been extremely negative in his policies when it comes to downstate Illinois. I mean, he's just crushing downstate Illinois, and we get 4 more years. That's the bad news. The good news is, I don't think that son of a gun is going to be here very long, because he's clearly running for United States president, and he will be off to the races nationally. And I don't think I don't think we're going to see him much in Illinois. So once that primary is over with, I don't think he gives one whit about what happens to Illinois, and he'll probably move off to New York like Obama did, or wherever Obama moved to. So but at the end of the day, hopefully, Pritzker will be off, once his presidential ambition's over with, we can, get back to some rational government here with some people who actually care about Illinois and want to see Illinois be successful.
Well, and that's an interesting comment, Chapin, because I was in our news this morning, had an interesting story about the future of the safety legislation, and the comments through the election cycle was, well, we'll look at it. Obviously there's things that need clarifying, and it was, I wouldn't say it was backtracking, but maybe it was a little trying to put the issue at bay a little bit, separate the issue and the candidates a little bit. And then, this morning I see a comment from one of the representatives in Chicago that they're not going to change anything, and any changes will be technical in nature to make sure that there's a smooth rollout. So, I'm kind of curious, will anything change from a government perspective with or without JB, kind of calling the shots, if you will?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the Democrats are fundamentally misreading what happened. They got lucky with a Supreme Court case that many people did not like, that energized their base to mitigate the effects of what was going to be a crushing tsunami. Okay. So it was a draw, but that doesn't mean that the people of Illinois aren't furiously ticked off about the Safety Act. And if you look across the state from Chicago to Cairo, people are furious about that. And I think that the Democrats long term are making a huge political mistake, but they're also putting the rest of us endangering the rest of us quite literally, by putting public safety at risk with what they're doing. And so, again, JB Pritzker's off to the races, and he doesn't care. I don't think one whit about the people of Illinois. I don't think he ever did. I think this is all about his U.S. presidential primary bid to be the most progressive left governor in America, so they can win that primary. But once he's gone, whoever takes over for him isn't going to have this, abortion thing to fall back on. And so they're going to have to get back to serious, what do the people of Illinois care about? And the people of Illinois care, I'm pretty sure that people of Illinois aren't going to be real excited when the jail doors open on January 1st and a bunch of criminals walk out. And, so again, I think that they are reading too much into to them just frankly getting damn lucky more than they are to where people are at. I mean, if you went out and polled the average pro-choice voter that just voted Democrat because of abortion and said, what do you think about the safety in your neighborhood? Their response would be, it's terrible. So I think these guys are making a huge policy blunder here. But look, let's just be clear. Policy trails elections. You have a group of, leftist progressives that got elected under Donald Trump, and they're still there under their map and then through, frankly, the basically getting lucky. So it may take another 2 years for this to catch up with them, but I suspect that when the jail doors open, the criminals walk out, a bunch of those same suburban soccer moms that just voted to them in office aren't going to be real happy.
But couldn't Democrats just continue to run on abortion? I mean, we can't let conservatives in because they'll take away our abortion rights. I mean, that could just be their message in perpetuity.
I'm sure that can be their message, and I'm sure that it will be their message. And what a sad message it is that, when all you have to offer people is killing babies, it's, pretty amazing. That's literally the only message they had. But this used to be a tragedy and, rare, but necessary. All those things, right, that they used to tell us as leftists, right? Now it's like just outright celebrated. And, it's just, it's not, and it's just stunning to me that this is the only thing that their party offers voters. They have nothing else to offer. They can't offer a good economy. They can't offer, gas prices. They can't offer, affordable food for, kids at the grocery store. They can't do any of that stuff. So they offer, infanticide, and it's pretty sick when that's celebrated.
Well, as true as that is, Chapin, that's, I feel like that's where you talk about the failure of Republicans in Illinois to extend a better message, if you will. I don't know what's like. It felt like the opportunity for Republicans to take a stand on their, on their values and things like that, and they just did not. What's your opinion there?
Well, look, the bottom line is you have to have somebody that can offer a competing message in a way that makes sense to people, and you have to have the money to back it up. I mean, let's just take a step back here, okay? Let's look at what the Democrats had. They had a map that they just drew, and they had a multi-billionaire governor spending, $100 million before the other guy even got out of the gate, okay? All that goes away because the multi-billion-dollar, well, not all, I'm sorry, the map's still here, but the billion-dollar governor goes away. I mean, he's off to the races for president, okay? You think that guy's going to spend one more penny on Illinois Democrats when he's spending money in Nevada and New Hampshire and Iowa, in the Carolinas? That's where he's going to be. That's where his money's going to be. So when you peel back all that, huge money that these guys had because of Pritzker, and you kind of level the playing field, right? So one way of looking at this election was, the elements that added up to them, added up for them. Okay. A map. Well, that doesn't change. Abortion, that will fade with time as people realize that nothing in Illinois will be impacted by that at all. Okay. Nothing, zero. It doesn't impact anything. And then the last thing being, J.B. Pritzker's money to just go in early and overwhelm the airwaves, not just for himself, but for all the legislative candidates. Okay. Those advantages, other than the map, recede pretty quickly over time. And that's all, and so I think the other way to look at this at some level is, despite all those advantages, J.B. Pritzker barely cracked 54, 55. I don't know what the final number is going to be, right? But, he's got everything going for him, and he could barely break 55%, against a downstate farmer with basically no money to compete in the Chicago airwaves.
Well, Chapin, any final thoughts on the election cycle?
No, and I'm just, look, I'm super, super glad that the Republicans picked up the U.S. House. I mean, we need balance. We need something else out there to counteract, the Biden administration and put the brakes on some of this nonsense. So, at the end of the day, it's, it wasn't the wave that people were expecting. And unfortunately, this is an expectations game, but you still won the U.S. House. And kind of the interesting thing there is it looks like the New York progressive leftists lost the House for the progressives. And what do I mean by that? It's back when they drew their map off the census. They gerrymandered it as well. They got so greedy for the progressive leftism that allowed our party to beat several Democrats, including the head of the Congressional Democratic Campaign Committee in New York, taking seats that have, in some cases been held by Democrats for decades. So, again, you got to have a lot of things, and in this case, I think the Democrats are overreaching if they believe that this was some kind of a mandate, because it really, really wasn't.
State Senator Chapin Rose on the phone with us. We'll talk more with him coming up on the WHOW Morning Show. WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Thursday. I'm Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network. December corn opening 658, down 7 1/4. March corn 660 1/2, down 7. May corn starting today 659 1/2, down 6 3/4. January beans 14 1/2, down 15. March beans down 15 1/2, 14 19 1/4. May beans 14.25 1/2. Down 15 1/4. December Chicago wheat 806 1/4, down 11 1/4. March wheat 826 1/4, down 11. And May wheat down 10 3/4, 836 1/2. December bean meal 406.40, down 20 cents. December bean oil 72.41. It's down $1.70. Opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
Are you a friend of agriculture? This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. We're giving a $500 Friends of Ag discount to anyone that orders a new Chevrolet or Buick to be built just for you this month. Are you a friend of ag? You are if you're a member of any ag organization, employed by any ag-related business, including research, inputs, manufacturing, sales, and marketing, and of course, ag education. Come in, order yours today. BaumChevyBuick.com. Right from the start.
Here's owner Dave Jackson from your Clinton Save-A-Lot on how inflation is affecting all of us.
I noticed an article about what companies were doing. Instead of just saying, here I am, I should be hiding in the closet, not talking about this, because you don't want to talk about what's really happening. Then it isn't happening. So I'm not afraid to bring up the fact that inflation is out of control on groceries everywhere.
Despite that, Dave still provides you selection and savings every day at your Clinton Save-A-Lot.
Hope to see you soon.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. State Senator Chapin Rose on the phone with us here for this morning. Chapin, I was telling you a few weeks ago, I was on my way to Mount Carmel for high school football, and along the way, I saw a lot of Rose signs on the roadways and sides of houses and those sorts of things. And your district is really going to go down south and east. So how about your new district? Are you getting to know it at all?
Yeah, I was down in Robinson earlier this week. I was down in Robinson on enjoyed a trip. Look, unfortunately, I'm going to be losing DeWitt. I'm going to be losing Macon. I'm going to be losing Pyatt. Places in McLean. I'm going to be losing all that. And now the new district is going south, as you noted, down to the bottom of Lawrence. Not quite to Mount Carmel, but yeah, you drove right through it. That's for sure. You ask like, what's next? Well, we're having to close offices and clean out and throw out. Then we're having to open new offices and find staff in areas that are in some cases hours south of me. And this is what happens when Democrats draw maps they draw maps to benefit Democrats, and then the new 51st is over 3 hours north to south one way. So it is it's an interesting process, and hopefully we'll be able to open some new offices and have some folks to take care of constituent issues and what I kind of call this sort of a south, central, north to this district. But it's going to be tough, and the Democrats do that by design too. I mean, my Democratic colleagues to the south of you guys will now be Decatur to Springfield. Well, that's a nice little 35-minute trip. My Democratic colleague to the southeast of you will be Champaign to Danville. Well, that's a nice little 35-minute trip. In the meantime, I'm 3 hours north to south one way, right? So it's going to be difficult to cover. There's a lot of logistics that, when people call an office to say we're for this bill or against this bill, or they say, hey, we want to change this law, or, they don't really think about that. But someone's got to go open that office. Someone's got to close that office. Someone's got to clean it out. I mean, it's a lot will go into the next 2 months for us from a staff level, just to transition to the new area.
Do you reach out to mayors, county board chairs? What's your process for getting to know those areas?
Yeah. No, I've already done that in a large sense. I mean, first thing I did was call county board members, county, mayors, and party officials, obviously, the whole 9 yards. But there's no substitute for being there in person, right? And so take Clinton, for example. Obviously, the Exxon nuclear power plant's a big deal for the people of DeWitt County, and as it should be. And when issues came up a few years ago, we worked as hard as we could, and with Representative Bill Mitchell back then, to make sure that the Clinton power plant stayed operational to provide low-cost power to our communities and our citizens, but also to make sure the 2,400 people that work there still had a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of trading in a nuclear power plant in Clinton, my new district. It'll be a oil refinery in Robinson, kind of almost the same size deal, same number of employees. Town of Robinson feels very much like the town of Clinton, except one's got a nuke plant and the other one's got a refinery.
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
A lot of interesting things, and then each community in the new area has got, different priorities and different challenges. I mean, a lot of farm ground, obviously, would be the central thread, but
sure.
Looking forward to it. I mean, just like in Clinton and DeWitt County, the people in Lawrence and Crawford, Coles, Cumberland,
Sure.
Clark, wonderful people.
Well,
I just wish it was a little bit easier to drive.
No doubt. Rose, always good to talk to you, my friend. Hopefully we've got something special in store for your final visit next month. State Senator Chapin Rose is on the phone. Network News is
Now, big
next.
1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM, W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM, W293 DJ Normal Bloomington.
From townhall.com. I'm Greg Clugston in Washington.